Another freebie generator. 6,000 watt, 10 horse, 120 volt, 20 amp. It's also got 240 at 21 amp. Another freebie. They drops it off at the shop because they can't get it to run. But I can already tell somebody's been at this thing. Number one, all the bolts for the fuel tank are missing. There's definitely no fuel in it. It is bone dry. And I got a feeling I know why it's dry. Spin this thing around. Well, the fuel line is off. That hose is completely broken. Yeah, that fuel line's junk. So there's problem number one. Number two, I already did try and put some fuel in it, and what did make it into the carb was boiling out from around the gasket on the float bowl. I did give it a little snort of ether, pulled it over and it popped. I gave it enough ether with a grinder plugged in and had the switch set to automatic, and it did try and start the grinder, so I think it's worth trying to fix. Let's get into this thing. First thing I'm going to do is get this fuel tank out of the way, since there's nothing holding it on. I've repaired a couple generators over the years. These rubber O-rings, they like to leak, but we'll fiddle with that later. Well, the valve isn't frozen, that's good, but I can see some rust in there, so I'll probably have to take that apart and clean it out. We know this fuel line is definitely junk. Yeah, it's just junk, garbage. Don't need this bracket in here. Get that out of the way. And because it's been sitting, the guy I got it from has had it sitting in his garage for 6 years, and he only ran it for about 10 hours, which I'm inclined to believe because carburetor does not look like it's really even gotten hot. I'm going to say the guy, I know him a little bit, definitely doesn't know about ethanol. So I'm going to guarantee the carburetor is gapped. So let's pull the carburetor off. Ooh, there was some water sitting in the bottom of that thing. So it was definitely stored outside. Yeah, there's rust in the air cleaner housing. We'll have to get that cleaned up. Let's pull off the air cleaner bracket so we can get everything behind. Two little Phillips screws. These Tecumsehs are super easy to work on. The only downside I have, in my opinion, about the Tecumsehs, these things are loud. So there's our bracket, base plate, gasket. Go pull off the crankcase vent line. Ooh, that's still nice and soft. That's good. It's not all cracked up. Ooh. Fuel pump or fuel line clamp is already loose. Okay, has somebody already been into this carb? Oh yeah, she's stiff. Let me get that fuel line off of there. Definitely gonna have to replace the fuel line because that thing is rock hard. Oh yeah, it just split. That's definitely junk. And that one runs through the air shroud, so we'll have to pull the air shroud off to get the fuel line out to replace it. This one does have a bushing in the throttle control coming over from the governor, so we'll have to be careful taking that out. Usually when I see those, that means the carburetor needs to be loose before you can roll it out of the bracket. It's like a couple number 3 Phillips. You see a lot of these where the nut is actually captured, so all you need is a screwdriver to take it off. I'm always careful to try and save the gaskets when I'm working on these things because sometimes you don't get them very easily. Okay, that one the nut is not captured, but a little pressure from your finger will get the job done. screw out of there. Oh, the gasket even came out. Although it does have a little bad spot right there. So hopefully we can get that with a carburetor kit. Let's see. Carburetor linkage should just pop free. Like that. There we go. There's our carburetor. Let's crack this thing open. Now, are my suspicions correct that somebody else has already been inside this carb? Get the float bowl off. These float bowls do have a rubber gasket right here. They will get hard and crispy and leak. If you soak them in PB Blaster, they'll come back to life a lot of times. Yep, somebody's been in here. You can see where the bowl has been scraped. Somebody tried to clean it. And that is what's left of the jet. And the needle pops out. That's good, I guess. So I've been through these Tecumseh carburetors a couple times. These are kind of interesting compared to other small engines. So the jetting is actually in the float bowl bolt. You can see there's a hole right there, another one on the other side. The fuel flows in through there and comes up the center. A lot more traditional small engine carburetors, you can see there's threads right here, and the jet will be threaded in from the bottom. Looks like you could probably put a traditional jet in here, but these commonly have these plastic injection tube, I think is what they call it. And they've got some little rubber O-ring seals that is hard as a rock. And this is supposed to be one piece. Kind of look like that. And it actually goes up in the throat of the carburetor so that when the fuel gets injected in with the power pulse, it injects it in the middle of the carburetor body so it has a better chance to atomize. A lot of traditional carburetors, it just comes up from the bottom and just kind of bloop, falls in there. It does have a brass float, which is good. Let's see how that comes out of there. Leatherman, get you one. And that pin is stiff. Maybe it only wants to come out one way. Come on, yeah, there. Okay, there's our cross pin. That allows the float to come off. Float looks like it's okay. There's definitely been some water in this. You can see a little bit of rust right there. This is the gasket that was leaking, which it is hard as a rock. Once again, you can soak these in PB Blaster for a day or so, and they'll loosen up and reseal. But considering that that plastic jet is broken, and I've tried to get those before, and I haven't found anywhere that I can get them, looks like we're gonna have to go with a Chinese aftermarket carburetor, which is a little bit of a shame because the carburetor's fairly clean inside and everything moves. Doesn't feel like the fuel passage is blocked. The seat looks like it's in good shape. But like I said, because we can't get that piece, Amazon it is. Let's see if we can drum one up. Now, $19 later on Amazon, let's see what we got. New air filter, which is good, because these do have the wire on them, and the wire on the old one was definitely rusted up. Well, that ain't enough fuel line to do nothing. In the picture, it looked like that was about 3 feet long. So I'll still have to get some fuel line. Ooh, Chinesium spark plug. WX. Never heard of that brand. But hey, it might be better than what's in it. We don't know. I haven't pulled the plug out to look yet. Carburetor. A lot of these aftermarket ones, they did away with that plastic jet and they used a brass one. But I couldn't see online if it was brass or not. Yep, it is. You see down inside the throat, see the piece of brass sticking up? That's the injector nozzle. Instead of the plastic, it's got the good brass one in it. So, might be a decent carburetor. Let's see. Fuel line connection is a little bit different. This one kind of faces down, whereas this one's straight out. I think we can work with that. It's got the provisions for the crankcase vent. Choke looks the same. Throttle linkage is slightly different. You can see the holes in a little bit different spot. I think we can make that work. Might just have to give the linkage a little bit of a bend. Everything else looks to be the same. What else did we get? Carb gasket and hose clamps for the fuel line is way too short. Well, let's get it thrown on there. Before we put the carb on, we need to replace that fuel line. So a couple 7/16 and 1/2 inch bolts around the outside. And this guy should come off. You do want to be careful because the on-off switch is in the front of the housing. You don't want to rip those wires back. But I'm just going to unplug them from the switch. And just for my own recognition here, green wire on the bottom, red wire on the top, black wire in the middle. There's the fan shroud. And this is something, if anybody in the comments knows, Tecumseh did this a lot where they had provisions for engines to run either pull start or electric, but it depends on how you ordered the engine. You can see this little guard right here would come off and an electric starter would bolt to the side. But obviously you're going to need a starter and you're going to need a flywheel that has the correct ring gear on it. I'd like to know where I could get that stuff. Because if I end up keeping this generator, which I think I might because it's a pretty good size, electric start would be really nice for the wife to be able to start it. Little air compressor bath here. Safety squints. This little guard comes off the bottom too. I'll have to wash that up. See if we can get this fuel line out of here. Get this clamp off, which I hate these spring clamps. Just personal opinion. I'll put regular hose clamps back on it. And this guy should, other than being hard as a rock, just pull out there. Alright, let me grab some fuel line real quick. And here we are all reassembled. I don't know if the carburetor linkage is exact. I re-drilled the hole. We're going to see if the governor is going to work. Loosely put the fuel tank back on. I haven't put any bolts in it yet because I don't know if it's going to leak anywhere. Gave it a little sploosh of gas. It's been sitting for a couple minutes. This does not have a shut-off valve, so it probably takes a couple minutes for the fuel to get down to the carburetor. So let's see how this Chinesium works. Full choke, power switch on. want to run unless it's on half choke, I believe that is. No, that's quarter choke that it wants to run on for some reason. But, let's see how the restart is. Well, for a free generator, a $19 carburetor that came with an air filter, I'm going to call that a win. I did have to go get some fuel line, which $14 for a piece of fuel line, ridiculous. But hey, for a free generator, I'm calling that a win. Thanks for watching.